Hi, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel, whichever one you're doing. I'm Aisha, Pluto's Crafts and Crimes. Today we're going to be talking about Joseph Sun. And we're going to be finishing up all these cat hats I have. I really just need to do the ribbing, close up some holes. So that's all I'm really going to be working on today. So let's go. So Joe Sun, best known for his role in Austin Powers. Joe Sun, best known for his role in Austin Powers, pretended life was normal, and he had a dark secret he was hiding from everyone around him. Joe Sun, named Joseph Hyungmin Sun, was born November 22nd, 1970, in Gwaju, South Korea. He moved to the U.S. in his early years. Again, I don't know what's about some of these cases. I don't know too much about his early life. I looked on Wiki. I tried to look up like his parents' thoughts on the case, which there were none. I really couldn't find anything about his home life before he became an actor and before this case really takes place. So all I really know is when he started his career. Like right before acting, he had another portion of a career in MMA and UFC. But other than that, there wasn't any information on his life before that. So, sorry. Next time. So Sun was not good at all in the MMA. He was not skilled. He never won a single match. He had a lot of defeats and some knockouts. So he wasn't good at any of his endeavors. His MMA record was 4 losses, which included 2 KOs and 2 submissions, KOs being knockouts. He fought in the Ultimate Fighting Championships with the UFC 3 in 1994 as Kemp Leopard's cornerman. Sun did go on to fight in the UFC 4, and he honed his own fighting style called Jo San Do. It was not popular and it never stuck. But he thought it would, so he wanted to craft his own style. But he just looked ridiculous. He looked incredibly insane, and everyone thought he was completely ridiculous trying to create his own move. Sun also fought in the Japanese production in 2002 in a leopard thong with the Pride Fighting Championship logo sported with eye makeup. So he was really trying to make a name for himself and trying to do whatever would possibly stick and make him popular, but nothing really seemed to in the fighting area of his career. Sun also was in an All Japan Wrestling for a short time. He also lost all his matches there too. He just was not very good, and I don't know what part of him didn't understand that he wasn't a very good fighter. But I do applaud his strength and triumph of keep going, right? It was due to his continuous fighting and his look, like his shape. He was really big and tough looking, like he kind of resembled a villain. So just due to some of his background, that was how he was able to capture the attention of some directors and make his way into Hollywood. Sun played Random Task, which was basically like a memified character from the Bond movies. So Random Task in 1997 in the Austin Powers movie International Man of Mystery, which was his most famous role. That was really the only movie he was well known for. He did play another role as another villain, but no one really knows too much about that movie. It was a very small role in a very small, I believe it was an independent film. So his best movie was Austin Powers. Much isn't known about Sun's life before his arrest in 2008, but he wasn't doing great. Financially or career-wise, he was struggling. For sure. He couldn't make himself in Hollywood any longer, and he wasn't getting any more acting roles that I could find before his arrest in 2008. So Sun was arrested in May 16th, 2008, where he pled guilty to felony vandalism after kicking in a car door of his friend. What a weirdo. He was sentenced to probation and 60 days in jail, and as part of his arrest and probation, he was required to give a DNA sample just so they could make sure they have him in the system. That becomes very important, guys. So in October of 2008, Sun's DNA sample came back to a cold case of sexual assault that occurred back on Christmas Eve of 1990. And remember, the Austin Powers movie came out in 1997. I think it was only shot in like 1995, 1996, and then it came out. So Sun was charged October 7th, 2008 for the SA case. During his interrogation, Sun boasted about his career and the fact that you can, quote, find him on Wikipedia, and would go to deny any crimes and call them disgusting. Yeah, they are disgusting. Freaking weirdo. On December 24th, 1990, an anonymous victim, now going by Victoria, was mere steps away from her home, walking her dog. Sun approached Victoria and asked her for directions, telling her he was lost and he was looking for the beach. Victoria was already really weary about this man approaching her and asking for directions in the middle of the night. But then she got even more suspicious when another man approached her from behind. He had a lit cigarette and then he flung it. And Victoria remembers telling herself, watch where it lands. Just watch where it lands. Sun and the, at the time, unknown man attacked Victoria and grabbed her by her hair. At one point, Sun did try to gouge out Victoria's eyes. Her dog did bite Joe, making him release his grip of her hair. Victoria threw her dog in the bushes out of fear that Sun or the other man may kill her. Victoria did try to run shortly after, but was unsuccessful and was again grabbed and then pistol whipped because they had a gun. Sun and his accomplice, which we later found out to be Santiago Gaetan, forcefully dragged her into their car and threatened to kill her. While in the car, Sun and Gaetan, and again, this is going to be a very big trigger warning that includes sexual assault and some other things that go with that, unfortunately. So if you can't, skip a little forward, but I won't go into too much detail about it. So they did repeatedly rape her, sodomize her, and torture her. They did also pistol whip her while in the car as well. Victoria was kicked out of the car naked and was told, and this is a quote, "Merry Christmas," and to run. Victoria said that it was a blessing that she was able to get out just due to the severity and how many times they had threatened to kill her. It wasn't until that she decided to tell them that she had just had a baby and she needed to get back home to her son. She had recollected that her friend had just had a baby at that time and used that to her advantage and hoping that they would have a change of heart and not kill her. Sorry guys, can't even see my crochet. I'm just babbling. But yeah, do whatever you can to escape. Who cares if you're lying or not? Get away, right? That's what I would do. Victoria went immediately to the hospital and was found with bruises around her body. Her shoulder and jaw were dislocated. DNA evidence was collected from the woman, from Victoria, and sketches were immediately composited from her memory. Sun had also carved an SOS, which at that time was the Sons of Samoa gang. It was a Crip gang known in California. He carved that into Victoria's skin. Due to not having a large database back in the 90s, I mean, really, it had only just become more advanced at that time, so there wasn't a large DNA database. They were unable to find the perpetrators, Sun and Gallatin, at that time, so there was no connection made, and the sketches didn't show anything either. They had no idea who had done these crimes. So let's recap for a minute. Sun and Gallatin had raped and mutilated Victoria in 1990. Sun then went to go on to have a career in MMA, the UFC, and All Japan Wrestling. Mind you, very unsuccessfully. But he escaped under the radar for 18 years and was even in a movie, a well-known movie. Later on into the investigation in 2008, Gallatin was identified and charged shortly after a test came back for Sun's identity. Investigators did a background check into Sun's life where they tried to see if maybe any of his friends or family would match the description of Gallatin. And they did find some, I believe it was photos of Gallatin and Sun together, and they made their identification there. Sun and Gallatin were charged with 5 counts of sexual assault, and they were broken down into 2 felony counts of sodomy and concert by force, 7 felony counts of forcible oral copulation, 1 felony count of sexual penetration by foreign object by force, facing a max sentence prison of 275 years of life. I mean, that's basically life at that point. There's no way you're going to live for 275 years. If you did, lucky bastard, but no way. Gallatin did plead guilty and told everything that happened during his plea, including Sun's involvement, while Sun, of course, pled not guilty. It was found in August 2011 that these charges could not be prosecuted due to the statute of limitation of rape and kidnapping. Although, I mean, I get it. He pled not guilty. They couldn't try it, right? Whereas Gallatin just admitted his guilt, so they were able to just charge him with those crimes. Stupid. But I get it. Stupid, but I get it. So Gallatin, since he pled guilty, he was charged with 1 of each felony. So each one that I read off to you, he was charged with 1 each. And he was sentenced to 17 years and 4 months on January 28th, 2011, with a possibility of parole in 2018. Gallatin is free. He is out of jail. But I don't think he served his full 17 years. 2008 to 2018. That's 10 years. So he didn't serve his full 17 years, but I mean, he was eligible for parole and he had turned his life around and he was a new man by the time they booked him, and he did plead guilty and admitted his guilt, but I think he should have served his full 17 years, if not longer, but what the hell ever. On September 19th, 2011, Sun was found guilty of 1 felony count of torture, and he was sentenced to 7 years to life in prison. With just a few months after he was sentenced, Sun murdered his cellmate. So there was no rehabilitating this man. He did not care at all. His cellmate's name was Michael Graham, who was serving a 2-year sentence for failure to register as a sex offender on October 10th, 2011 at the Wasco State Prison. Graham died from blunt force trauma, I believe, to the head. I mean, based off of autopsy reports, it showed that his insides had basically liquefied, and that, yeah, he was basically a shell of his former self because he was all liquid. I know, I'm so sorry, that's so gross. But a patrol officer was walking the floor of the prison when he checked Sun's cell. Graham was lying in his bed originally when he first came to check. Sun stopped the officer and said that he wanted to change cells while he was checking the first round. When the officer was making his second round, Sun suddenly shouted, "Man down," which in prison, that alerts an officer that someone is dead. Mysterious, right? That doesn't really add up. So Sun is in a cell. Graham is allegedly asleep. So Sun is in a cell. Graham is laying down. Sun says, "I want to switch cells." Prison officer says, "Okay, whatever, shut up." Walks away. Pays it no mind, right? Does his second round of walks. Sun hears him and says, "Man down." But Sun wants us to believe something else happened. So this is Sun's side of the story. Sun claimed that Graham attacked him with a makeshift knife, which caused him to beat up Graham. But shortly after the fight, they agreed to make up and everything was just fine. After the officer made his first walkthrough, Sun decided that they shouldn't be fighting, that he just wanted peace, and asked to change. But then Sun noticed something off and shouted, "Man down." And when he was detained, so they took him out of the cell. Mind you, before they even took him out of the cell, when he shouted "Man down," he was seen washing his hands in his sink. You beat that man to death and you have the audacity to wash your hands. So when they were looking over his body to try to find defensive wounds to match up what he was saying about being stabbed or fighting with Graham, there was nothing. He also told the officer while they were checking him, "I told you should have changed my cell." What? Like, that's not a good enough excuse. There were really no reports saying what happened. There were no reports stating that Graham and Sun had a bad relationship or that they were known for fighting. There was really nothing. I believe Sun is just crazy in the head and probably just needs some damn help, to be all honest. So there were no defensive wounds, no stab wounds found on Sun. He was moved to solitary confinement after the fight, and he was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 27 years to life in prison. He is currently still in prison because he now has a sentence of 34 years to life in prison. So Victoria did develop PTSD from the incident. She would constantly have nightmares and triggers. It wasn't until she moved out of state that they would start to slow down and she could finally get some sleep. She started a family in her new state and had a set of twins. In 2014, Victoria was diagnosed with breast cancer, but believed if she could go through her SA that she was going to get through her cancer. Victoria called herself Victoria because she was never identified by her real name. She always wanted to stay anonymous, but during her trial, she wanted to be called Victoria, and it was due to, quote, "It was a victory to see her rapist go to prison." A 48 hours, I believe that's what it's called, a 48-hour video of her discussing in a little bit more detail of what happened during her essay. But it's not like crazy like this, that, the third, but it just goes in a little bit more detail about what happened, where they went, and the trial and all of that. But she looks strong and brave, and I believe it was done in 2016. So it was a little bit after her diagnosis of cancer. But again, she still goes by Victoria, and she looks great. I couldn't find any other information on where she is now, and I'm sure she wants to keep her life as private as possible. Is out of jail, although he is a reformed prisoner, but, you know, keep your life private as much as possible. But yeah, that's the crazy story of Joseon. Oh, she did also say that when she found out who he was and what movie he played in, she found out that he was in Austin Powers, and she had said that she literally had the DVD sitting in her house, and she couldn't believe that that man was in her house, and it kind of like, you know, triggered her again, of course. So she got rid of all the DVDs and vowed to never watch Austin Powers again. Congratulations to Victoria. Joseon, I hope you continue to rot. And yeah, that's really the end of the video, and I only got one of these damn things done. And I don't know if it's because I can't really talk and do this at the same time. I'm not very much used to it, so. And holding it, remembering to hold it up so you guys can actually see me do my work and I'm not pretending to do something. But, okay, there it is. All done. Yay. See? Got a bunch of strings I gotta pull through and sew in, blah, 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 blah. Very cute. Very cute. Yes, very cute. Okay, bye.